Lesson 17 is direct variation. Direct variation. There's some notes in Algebra Student Edition preliminary pages about direct variation. If it says that y varies directly as x, what that means is we have a y equal mx plus b situation where b is equal to 0. Okay? If it says y varies directly as x, that means that we have a linear equation of the form y equal mx plus b where b is 0. If b is 0, then we have y equal mx. Now, the reason it says that is this. If we have y equal m, remember slope is change in y over change in x times x. So as x varies, y varies directly. There's not some thing going on out here that changes the way y varies in relationship to x. It varies directly as x. There's no variance to that variation, you see. Okay? So the fact that b is 0 means direct variation. Well, that's easy for us. We know how to deal with linear equations. It's just a linear equation where the y-intercept is known to be 0. Okay? All right, so then it says, number 1, if y varies directly as x, then write an equation to represent the line that contains the point 5,3. But aren't we used to having 2 points to find the equation, the slope of a line? Remember that the slope of most lines is change in y, change in x. But with direct variation, it's just the y of any point on that line over the x of any point on that line. You don't have to do change in y, change in x. You only need 1 point, and the slope is the y of that 1 point over the x of that 1 point. So when it says y varies directly as x, and it gives me the 1.53, I can put the y over the x and have my slope. Now, I already know what my y-intercept is. The y-intercept with direct variation is 0 every time. So what's my equation going to be? Y equal 3/5 x. We only needed one of those, but we're fixing to answer the next question. It says, and then find y for 35y. That means we're going to put 35 in place of x and solve for y. The next one says find x for x9, and that time it's giving us the y. So we found our equation, which was just the y over x of the point on the line, with the understood y-intercept as 0. We're going to plug into that equation. So we're going to have y is equal to 3 over 5 times the x they gave us, 35. Yes. And then we're going to solve. So we get a 7 by cross multiplying and get y equal 21. So we found the y when the x was 35. Okay. On this one, they gave us the y and asked for the x. So we're going to have 9 is equal to 3/5 x. You undo multiplication by division or multiply by the reciprocal. Very good. So we're going to multiply by 5/3. 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into 9 3. And so we get x equal 15. Any questions on number 1? Direct variation. In direct variation, we have a linear equation with a y-intercept of 0. Given that situation, we only need 1 point to get our slope, and the slope is the y over x of that 1 point. To solve from there, we just plugged into that equation that we created with that slope. Any questions on number 1? Okay. good. Number 2. It says y varies directly as x. That tells me that my y-intercept is 0 and that my slope is the y over x of any point they give me. They gave me the point, negative 3, 7. I put the y of it over the x of it. We don't leave a negative in the denominator, so we say our sign rules. When you divide with different signs, the answer is negative, so the slope is negative 7/3. So we're going to write down our equation. Y equal negative 7/3 x. The y-intercept is an understood 0 that we'll leave off. It's given us 2 things to plug in, so we're going to write it down again, so we'll have 2 plug-in places. The first time they want us to solve for y if the x is negative 18. And the second time they want us to solve for x if the y is negative 21. So on the first one, we're replacing x, so y equals 7/3 times my x of negative 18. I can cross-reduce to a negative 6. 7 times negative 6 is negative 42. Negative 7. Thank you. So that's a positive 42. Thank you, sir. Watch those signs. Now we're going to plug in the 21 for the y, so we get 21 is equal to negative 7/3 x. You undo multiplication by, division or, multiply by the reciprocal, negative 7/3. 3/7. Wow. Multiply by the reciprocal, negative 3/7. Notice that the reciprocal is the same sign. When we reciprocate, we don't change the sign. You do that when you're doing perpendicular line slopes. And so 7 goes into 21, 3. Negative 3 times 3 is negative 9, so x equals negative 9. Any questions there? Direct variation. Okay. Number 3. If y varies directly as x, direct variation, that tells me that my y-intercept is 0 and that my slope can be calculated by using how many points? Only 1 point. And the slope is the y over the x of that 1 point. So my equation is y equal 5 over 2x, which I'm going to write down twice because it gave me 2 plugins. It wants me to find the y that goes with an x of 16. And it wants me to find an x that goes with the y of 40. Any questions? All right, so 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 16, 8. 5 times 8 is 40. You undo multiplication by, division or, multiply by the reciprocal. 5 goes into 5 once, 5 goes into 48. 2 8s are 15. x equal 16. Any questions on number 3? They're changing a little bit. Question was, are they all like this? Which was what I was thinking. If they are, that's about enough, huh? Number 4. If y varies directly as x, then write an equation to represent the line that contains these points, and then find. Here's another one like it. Number 5, if y varies directly as x, write an equation to represent the line that contains, and find, and there's another one like it. And number 6, I thought they were about to change. They didn't change any, did they? Yeah. All right. We'll let you do the rest of those. We'll spare you the rest. We pretty well have that down, right? So we'll move to number 7. How's that? You can finish those on your own. If the number of strikes varies directly as the number of pitches, such that the number of strikes is 1/3 the number of pitches, then how many strikes will there be if there's 96 pitches? Now, when we said that, did we say that y varied directly as x or x varied directly as y? What did we say at the first? Or did we need to do the other 3 so we make sure we remember? I'm just kidding. We said y varies directly as x. The number of strikes will depend upon the number of pitches, right? Y, strikes is the dependent variable. Pitches is the independent variable. So the number of strikes, y, is 1/3 the number of pitches, x. What if we wrote an equation just with that? What would we have? Y is means equal 1/3 the number of pitches, x. Well, the 1/3 is like in the slope position. We also call that the constant of variation. And I didn't write this before, but y equal mx plus b is the slope-intercept form of a line. With direct variation, we would say that y equal kx, where k is the constant of variation, so we give it a different name than slope. Okay? But it's in the slope position. It says how many strikes, is that x or y? When there are 96 pitches, x. So the key here is to remember which one's which. So the number of strikes, y, is equal to 1/3 the number of pitches, 96. 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 96, 32. So out of 96 pitches, 32 of those pitches would be strikes. Okay? So we had to identify which one was dependent on the other one. The dependent variable is y. Strikes varies directly as pitches. Strikes is also dependent on pitches. Any questions on number 7? Okay. Number 8, the number of boys varies directly as the number of people. The number of boys, y, is dependent upon the number of people in the class X. It says the number of boys, y, is 2/5 number of people, x. So y is means equal 2/5 of x. You could put b and p if you wanted to, boys and people. We want to know how many boys, y, if there's 125 people, x. So we plug it in. So the number of boys, y, is equal to 2/5 times the number of people, 125. You understand what we're doing? So 5 goes into 5 once, 5 goes into 125, 25, and so we get y is equal to 50. So the number of boys in that class would be 50. Any questions on number 8? Okay. Number 9. The number of correct y varies directly as the number incorrect x. The number correct y is twice the number of incorrect x. Y is means equal. Twice means 2 times the number of correct x. Y equal 2x. The 2 then is the constant of variation. We want to know how many correct there will be. That's y. If the number of incorrect is x, so they gave us x, and we solve for y. Any questions on direct variation? So direct variation in reality is a linear equation. I need to show you one more thing. It's a linear equation that has a y-intercept of 0. K is replaced for slope. We call slope m, but in this we could call it K, the constant of proportionality. Now, let's back up to some of those that we didn't do. Let's look at number 4. And let's do number 4 a little bit different. This is important. If I had a table of values, I just want to show you something. If I had y equal 2x plus 3, if I let x be 1, I would get a 5 for y. Y'all agree with that? 2 times 1 is 2 plus 3 is 5. If I let x be 2, I'd have 7 for y. Okay? Let me show you something. Can I put my x over y equal x over y? Watch what I'm talking about. x1 over y5, x2 over y7. Is that true? No. These are not proportional. Because b is not equal to 0. That 3 right there made those not be proportional. But if we had a situation like y equal 2x, when the 3 was not there, if x is 1, y is 2. If x is 2, y is 4. Now let's look at it. The x of 1 over its y of 2, x of 2 over its y of 4. When your y-intercept is 0, then your x's and y's become proportional. And the change in y over change in x is the same as y over x. That's why you don't need 2 points. Okay? Which means that direct variation is proportional. The K is the constant of proportionality. Now, let's look at this. If I wanted to answer this question then, how could I do it? I could say the x over y of the first one is equal to the x over y of the second one. I could set up a proportion with direct variation problems. And I could cross multiply, and I would get negative 3y is equal to negative 195 I'm just solving these two right now. I'm actually solving for y. We could we could do these two together and actually solve for x, right? So divide negative 3, and you get y is equal to 65, which, okay? So we could find the y using a proportion. That's not really how I want you to do these. I just needed you to know that direct variation means proportionality. Now, how else could you do that? We could say, do you understand dimensional analysis? If I have the name x, how could I get rid of x? I could multiply by y over x. You understand that if you multiply x by y over x, the x's cancel? So here's the deal. I'm going to start with my x name, negative 39. And I want to lose the x and gain the y. So I take my first point. I'm going to lose the x and gain the y. And get the same answer. Now, I use scale factor to do that. The scale factor is the constant of proportionality. It was your slope. So you see how that stuff ties together? So what is a y equal mx plus b without the b? Direct variation or a proportion, you see? Without the b, it's proportional. With the b, it's no longer proportional. Any questions on that? We needed you to see that. All right, and we'll let you work on the rest of them on your own. Appreciate your attention.